Hello and welcome. Another Try&Fly. Well, it's actually more like a test drive of a quite old add-on here, the Jrollon CRJ-200. This is an aircraft that exists, I think, since X-Plane 9 times or so. It's one of the first more advanced add-ons for X-Plane, dating back years now. It hasn't really been updated for quite some time. There was a version 1.5 was out for a long time, then XP11 came out, and Jrollon created version 171, and then there was a 172 update. I also have the sound kit. There's a BSS payware sound edition that is included here. My luck wasn't was that I bought it at Sim Market, and it looks like Sim Market is not selling the BSS products anymore, or at least not this one, with the result that I couldn't get an update. So I still had the old sound add-on, but that one does not work for X-Plane 1150 anymore and Vulkan. And it doesn't work means it actually causes issues and crashes the simulator, things like that. So yeah, I was a little bit miffed about that. And then during the winter sales, I spent again money on getting the same thing again from the org store, because I couldn't find any other way of getting an update. So installed this one. So in theory, this aircraft is compatible with 1150-ish, compatible-ish, because no, it isn't 100%. So I had an awful lot of issues, and most of these issues center on the navigation part, on following a flight plan, switching between the FMC mode and navigation, apart from the fact that it is actually a very simplistic aircraft. Okay, it's due to the age. Philip Münzel was the one who wrote the FMC for this, and he stopped supporting it quite some time ago. That's at least what I understood. So they didn't really update this to 1150. You can still use it. It theoretically works, and I don't know how many people are still using this add-on, but the issues that I have seen, I also found on the forum. There has been a number of threads, and it basically always turned out to turn off all your plugins. Because it seems that in 1150 things have changed a bit, and some plugins may or may not interfere with something ominous in the background, which causes then the FMC and the LNAV basically mode to not work anymore. And so I did about 30 different test flights with 30 different combinations of things. The only time when it sort of worked okay was when I really turned off every single flippin' plugin. But that's not the point, you know. Why should I have a product that forces me to not use any of the other freeware and payware add-ons like plugins that I have? Okay, but I did, and yes, that was one flight that worked, although I should have probably done a second one. Because no matter which plugin I then added, it did not work anymore. So, and that is consistent with what I read in many of the threads, that those people that have the problem, or at least wrote about it, did not really get a solution apart from turning off all plugins. Now, there seem to be two candidates which are prime suspects in making this not work, and that is the Gizmo script engine, which is used for mainly the X aviation airplanes. Now that is an easy one. I've turned that one off because when I fly with this here, I don't need Gizmo. So turned it off. Didn't really make a difference for me and for others, but for some it did, apparently. The other one is XP11. Now that is a bad one for me because I use Bene Overlay and the one or the other tool that still requires XP11. So theoretically I would have to have it off. The thing is, I left XP11 out of the game and I still got the problems. So I found one thing, and that is the server address. You can configure a server address in XP11 config file. You put this on something else. So you basically point it to a non-existent IP address. Then comes an error message at the beginning when you start the simulator. XP11 is still working all right, but apparently someone has discovered that it would not interfere anymore with the aircraft. The other prime suspect, and I think that worked for some people, is the X-Cytec panel thing, which also seemed to manipulate things in the navigation area. And leaving that one out seems to have solved the problem for some people, with a stupid side effect that they then can't use their X-Cytec panel hardware, which is not really a solution. You know, it's a workaround and a not very successful one if you can't use your hardware afterwards. I don't have Cytec hardware anymore. I got rid of it all, and I don't use the X-Cytec panel plugin for a long time now. So, and I still have problems. So it's not the only reason. And so on and so on. So this went on. I spent almost a day in trying this out. At the moment, then Sam. Sam was the next candidate. Sam for the gates and also for seasons and things like that. Well, I left it out now because Sam also crashed on my last stream when I was approaching Spitzbergen, Svalbard, Longyearbyen. But for other reasons. I updated it in the meantime, but it seems that the AOS plugin, as it's called, the SAM's plugin, seems to be also interfere. So I left it out now for this test flight, although I made other flights where SAM didn't make a difference, having it or having not. Yeah, and so on and so on. So I tried everything. My GoFlight interface plugin, I left it out. I brought it in again because it didn't make a difference. So I ended up with having only 2 flights where things sort of worked, and most of the other ones I was all over the place. And then I found something very interesting. The flights that worked were based on the fact that I had loaded a flight plan into the normal GPS in the 530 or 430 of X-Plane. And that happened to be the same flight plan that I use for my Try&Fly. And when I deleted that flight plan, I was not able to fly my course anymore. That was it, no matter how many plugins I turned on or off. So I have now a theory, and I also, oh, hang on, it might be that I don't have that for this here anymore. I thought I did. Oh yeah, FMS CDO pop-up. Okay, so I still have that. Let's, for some reason, I can't open it now. I could the last time. This is like moving target, I can tell you that. Yeah, apparently this does not work anymore. Which also would now render... This worked yesterday, and now I'm doing this video, and this is with... I don't know, like, but with X-Plane, I really have a lot of this kind of crappy things happening. things that change, settings that get lost. You know, I'm not sure what's wrong at the moment, but yeah, this is one of them. So although I still have it programmed, I can't pop up the FMS, or in this case it was the GPS anymore. Let's see, maybe I can use another one. I thought it's the same aircraft, so it should also work the same, wouldn't it? Okay, no, not the Garmin. That's the Garmin pop-out. No, I don't want the Garmin pop-out. I basically want the FMS pop-out CDU window. That's only the window. That's the one. Yeah. Doesn't work anymore. Because my solution is based on exactly this fact, that you can open up the GPS and yeah, I think I need to have a look at that. So let me see if I can get it back. Well, apparently I'm not able to get it back, and I'm not sure why we're having this issue now. It's just another issue, I suppose. Let's give it a try, and if for some reason I still have that problem, then I'm going to document the problem so that you have seen it, and then it's part of the try and fly. And to tell you the truth, if I can't get this to work, then that's it for me with this aircraft. It's a pity, yeah, and I kind of dread now that I spent money on the sound kit again, but I really like the CRJ-200, and I'm a bit miffed now that I can't get it to work properly. But maybe today it does work. Who knows? By the way, in order to get your position set up for the IRS, you not only need to do these two here, bring them into the nav position, but you cannot select this position, which apparently is my local current position, I think. I'm guessing. No, you have to enter EDDM, which gives you then some centered position, and you put the wrong position in, basically. Why that is, I don't know. But this is an old add-on, and I'm not even sure if this is more, this could be show here, you know. I don't think it has anything to do with the navigation as such. So that is merely show, I guess. So then you go to the flight plan, and you can either now enter the flight plan or you can load one. Because this is a try and fly, I'm going through the hoops of entering it again. Let me quickly check. So the GPU pop-up, we have connected the... we haven't connected the GPU yet. Yeah, let me do that quickly. We need to have the power, the parking brake on for this to work. Okay, then we can switch to the AC button and be on external power. So weather radar we need to turn off. It's in the cold and dark, it's always on. Nice checklist I found somewhere on the forum. IRS we have already done. We have to turn on the yaw dampers, the APU is on, the bleed air is on, the air conditioning packs need to be turned off. Hydraulic pump 3A, that's the second button switch that needs to be turned on. And then we check through the stuff, which I usually don't do. The main door, that's before start checklist. I think well, it's a little bit too early now. Let's go and continue here with the setup. You can see that I've done this now quite a few times, so I'm somewhat proficient with it now. So we're flying EDDM, and I got some issues with the arrival and departures as well, but let's see if that works today. Okay, so let's try and start with the departure. We're going via 08 left, Anchor 9 Quebec. The usual thing, I use the exec button, then I check. Oh no, that's only the page, yeah. So these don't work, these two. A lot of these buttons don't really have function, okay? So this is mostly fake. There is no VNAV capability really built in. You have to do it yourself. There is no auto throttle. That's normal though. Auto throttle is a special equipment that I think was available on newer models, the CRJ-700 or so. I'm not too sure about the 200, and was an option that the airline could take, but a lot of them didn't. So as far as I understand, normally you don't fly without autothrottle, which also means for us, it's not so easy to fly this aircraft. You have to be very aware of your speed all the time. There is also no, for me, detectable FADEC support, which is part of the real aircraft. And in the implementation, I tested the Aerosoft CRJ the other day, and there we had actually a FADEC system where you were able to have these detents here. They are missing here completely. So this is probably based on an either very old original version of the real aircraft, or simply hasn't been put in. Yeah, don't forget, as I say, this is a year-old add-on, which you cannot compare with nowadays levels. Okay, so we have the departure. Let's go back to the flight plan. Next is Akini. And now you can go on the next page. Then comes Ostes. All right. Then comes Bamta. And Bamta is the entry to our arrival, or star. Execute. Let's go to the arrival. Let's press here. You first have to pick your star, Bamta for alpha. Then you need to go back here. You pick your ILS, and then you pick your transition. There's also a transition for stars, but in this case we don't have a star transition, but we have an approach transition. It's the usual try and fly round. If you watch this series more often, you know it. You should know it by now, like me. Okay, so back to the flight plan. Let me quickly check this. We do have a discontinuity, which is no surprise. But you cannot close this discontinuity so easily. So you cannot just, yeah. Can we? Okay, now we go. You cannot just close it like you would think. You cannot delete it. So at the moment, we do have a discontinuity in the flight plan. But in order to close this gap, don't try this here in the flight plan. I'm showing you this because I did, and it took me an age until I realized I'm actually in the flight plan page, the route page of the CRJ-200, and not in the legs page. You have to go to the legs page, then you can put Mike here, and then you press execute, and then you have your route. Don't be surprised if you don't get any numbers filled in here. For me, it never did. You can't even provide the altitude, if I remember correctly. Now, I'm still in the Aerosoft on prepared, and there you could do these things, okay? But in this one, this is so reduced in functionality. I'm glad when I get the lateral part of my flight plan set up. The rest I have to do myself. That's just the reality of this add-on. Okay, so Maggot, it has the constraints. It gets this from the Navigraph. Yeah, it's looking good. So let's have a quick look at this. Let's put this here. Over here, you can, in this inner ring, you can go into plan mode, and I think this already looks not correct. So we do have a problem. And I wanted to show you that. See this here? The Bamta thingy, it didn't put in the star. Yeah. So let's try that again, shall we? It's not that it isn't in here, right? Yeah, so let's turn it off. So let's go to the legs page and let's execute this. Apparently, oh yeah, here we can step. Now the steps work, and you can see we see Ostis and Bamta. That was part of the flight plan, but we've lost now everything that is the arrival. So I'm deleting Bamta now. I execute this, and I try again. Arrival. Bamta 4 Alpha, transition. ILS 08 left. Mic transition. And we still have discontinuity. This has not worked. You see this? It does not get the Bamta 4 Alpha in there. Not sure if this is a problem maybe of the ARAC. I have the 2013, the 2020-13 ARAC in here. Maybe there's an issue, but we apparently have a problem here with the arrival procedure in Munich. So the only thing I can do is I can manually enter the transition, which I shouldn't really have to do, but there you go. So I put in Bamta. Then comes Bingu, I think. I might shorten it then a bit. So Bingu, and Bingu, we need to be at, let's see if that works. We need to be at flight level 150, and as you can see, there's nothing I can enter here. So I have no way of entering the constraints, unfortunately. Bingo. Tusto Landu. Was it Tusto first and Landu next? I think it was Tusto first, yeah. We'll see where it is, and then I probably know. Tusto is quite close, yeah, so Landu is the next one. You see that I fly this quite often, so yeah, there we go. And then comes Mike. We are closing the discontinuity. We are executing this. And we have a decent looking. So the other thing I realized is Akini is gone as well. So it has decided to kick out Akini. See this here, anchor. There was Akini, it got lost, so I'm going to enter Akini. And here we have Akini. And now finally, this thing looks what it's supposed to. This shows you already that there is this is fundamentally flawed already, okay? So their way of doing the navigation, unfortunately, it doesn't seem to be up to par anymore. Now, there seem to be people that can use this aircraft without issues. Well, I hope we can too. The thing is, in my previous tests, and I can't tell you now what the difference suddenly is, I was able to pop out the Garmin, and I could see that if I had the same flight plan in the Garmin, everything worked okay. Now that I'm not able to open it up anymore, for whatever reasons, yeah, we have to see if that works or not, this combination. I have a bad feeling about it though, but maybe I get surprised. Okay, right, then let's continue. The fasten seatbelt signs. Where were they? They were here. Yep. Landing elevation pressure. You can set that here, and somewhere on. I think it does set it and displays it somewhere. I just can't remember where, probably on this page. Let's bring in the checklist over here. Do we see the landing? Ah, here it is. Landing elevation minus 1000. That is not the correct one. We need 1480. It's one of these drag and cry things. Like a video game trying to hit the mark. I love it. I love it. 1500, 1440, 1480. Yeah, hit. Okay. Right, landing elevation altimeter to local, review ATIS. We have the standard weather, so 2935. You can switch to, yeah, so 993 is not correct. We need to bring this to 1013 so that we end up at 1480. Yep, looks correct. See here, slightly below 1500. That's the way how you check it. You know the airport elevation. And if you have the correct pressure dialed in here, you should end up at your airport elevation, which is 1480, I think, here in Munich, roughly. Okay, FMS initialization we've done. Let me see, is there anything else we can do? So, yeah, there is one thing that we still need to do. So we're here back. You could actually load a route. It is not the standard X-Plane 11 route. It stores it somewhere else in its own format. It does work though. I saved it from here with the copy active. Actually, copy active actually saves your flight plan. It's not very intuitive, but I found out that this saves your flight plan, and then I was able to use this, which was good because after so many test flights that I did, if I had to enter the flight plan every single time, I wouldn't have done it. So I was able to very quickly load the route, but I wanted to show you what my problem was when we do this manually. That's why I did it manually. Performance in it, there isn't really much. This whole performance stuff is, yeah. So I use the OAT of 15. It comes up with these values: takeoff, climb, and cruise. That's the takeoff thrust N1, I think, settings. And in theory, it should now have, let me see here. In theory, once you have set this, it should have theoretically brought this up here as a little marker. I don't know. It may come, but at the moment I can't see it. And that's it. There isn't anything more. You could actually give a TGT. I don't have values for that. So when I enter 90 here or something, let's see. So now we can see them. I don't know. Let's try another temperature and see what changes that makes. So it does here 88.6. These are not the V speeds, by the way. They're not to be mixed up with the V speeds. We are still on 99.8 TGT. N1. I don't know. So I guess I'm not even sure that these values have any bearing. What I do is I use roughly 90, a bit over 90 something on the N1, and I do this manually because there is no FADEC and there is no manual intervention. So I just play it by heart. Okay. And that's it. The only other pages that are here is the, okay, yeah, 109.50. I leave it in automatic mode for the course. Yeah, there's no auto land. Don't even think about it. No point. Here's your score code. And let me see, that's the performance page. We're in there. Progress doesn't work. Radio, we've been there. The MFD, yeah, it shows, you can set what you want to see. So I can, for example, turn on the airports here. That's the index. Fix doesn't work. Legs works. Secondary flight plan doesn't work. VNAV doesn't work. This works only when you're in a flight plan. That's the MCDU menu where you can switch between. Here, by the way, you can enter your fuel in pounds. Okay. Yeah, as far as I know, 7,000 pounds will do nicely for my flight, which is very short. But yeah, I guess I need to use something like SimBrief and in order to calculate the estimated fuel consumption for the CRJ-200. There's a profile for it, as far as I remember. Yeah, and that's the FMS menu. There's the position in it. We have been in there. Yeah, and that's the status. It gives you the 31st of December 20. Obviously, we are now in the new year 21. So this is now 1 day old. Today is the 1st of January 2021. And here's the version, CRJ 1.7.2. Yeah, so we've been through this. There isn't really much more that you can do here with this. There is a hold actually, and there is a direct to page. I haven't tried the hold yet, but I guess when it's in there, chances are that you can actually fly a hold. Alrighty, then. Flight director is on heading button. So they want us to set the heading, which is supposed to be 080. I have the hardware working, but oops, for this flight I haven't got it activated because I want the minimum of interference by other plugins and tools, so I leave GoFlight hardware and all that out. So they want this to turn on. Runway heading is set. Initial altitude, there we put it on flight level 200. There's no in between. This is the usual altitude that we fly with. Okay, next. So startup checklist, APU power. So in order to get the APU working, you first click on the power fuel button, then you click on start, then we wait. And here you can hear. It's now available. Don't press the button again. Then we have to activate the APU generator. We put this on auto position. And this has switched from in use back to available, and then we can actually go into the FMC and disconnect the external power. All right. So then we turn on the beacon, which is here. Fuel boost pumps, they are to be turned on. Gravity X-flow valve open. That's this one here. Hydraulic pumps 1, 3B, and 2 all to be put. That's all the other ones to put into automatic mode. Ignition A button arm. APU LC valve open and isolation valve open. Fuel ICAS check, so we can select. The ICAS only shows a very few pages. The ECS, that's the environmental with the packs. At the moment we have them off. The hydraulics, you can see the hydraulic pressure and the content in the reservoirs. I'm not sure if that is even simulated fully. This is the electricity here, elect page with the APU providing electric power for the moment as the only source generator. Total fuel, and we can see that we have 3,490 pounds per tank, left and right. Flight controls not working, doors not working, CAS not working, menu not working, this doesn't work. So basically, yeah, not very much works in this. Also these test buttons, they look like they're interactive, but they're not coded. So theoretically, someone could probably write some code if you find out how these buttons are put into the aircraft file, and you could actually probably maybe bring life into them. Others are not coded. So there are buttons where you have mouse interaction. So in theory, they could be, yeah, in this case, they are, not very nice. Yeah, floodlight here and the panel. So that's the lighting panel. This one, yeah, is for nothing. This is for the trims, rather an aileron trim. Okay, next, startup checklist continued. Right, now we need a pushback. So let's bring in our trusted better pushback.
Ground to cockpit. Please show me where you want to go.
Yeah, where I want you to go. Let's delete this segment and let's place it here.
Ground to cockpit. Toes driving up.
Ach yeah, Mr. Mini. It's not a large aircraft, I suppose. They wouldn't bring in the big boys. Yeah. I really wonder.
Okay, all doors and hatches are closed. Ready to connect. Set parking brake.
The parking brake is set. Which, by the way, you can see here. This never stays in position. You need to click again.
In position. Release parking brake when you're ready to start pushback.
Parking brake is released. By the way, there are some more mods in here. So there are some mods that take out the reflections in the screens. And yeah, some small amendments also to the cockpit textures, which just improve the night lighting and things like that a little bit. But this is such an old aircraft, and even with these add-ons, you can see it doesn't really look what it should look like in nowadays if this would be a modern add-on. It's just due to the age. Oh yeah, let's start the engines. So we press here, and so I think when this is about 15 or 18 or 20, I'm not sure, you kind of grab the red handle and bring the thrust lever into the fuel on position, and from then on you can actually use the levers, your thrust levers. They are blocked as long as it's in this position. Okay. We do have to start a cutout already. Let's do that same thing. Yeah, about 15 or so. You need to play around a bit with the mouse until that lever clicks forward. Start a cutout. That's all very fast. I'm not sure if it's that fast in real world. So I hope it's not too loud. With OBS and all these simulators, I never know.
Operation complete. Please set parking brake.
Parking brake is set. Okay. By the way, I've turned out all this menu stuff from Better Pushback. Okay, so you can turn this off because I don't want to click on some buttons that appear. As soon as I set the parking brake, I want these boys to just head off. So generators. Okay, then the APU start button. That's this one here. We turn it off. We turn off the APU power fuel, the LC valve, the isolation off, and the ignition A button off. And then we have no checklist anymore.
Power disconnected and bypass pin has been removed. Hand signal on the left. I'll see you next time. Have a safe flight.
Oh, okay. So he hasn't done the checklist. That's open checklist. Okay. He has not done the checklist to have these headlines. There is a way. I probably have to amend this just now that I realize it. If you take the title of each checklist double with a colon in between, you also get the menu up here. If you don't do this, you have your checklists, but you cannot select them individually in the menu. Okay. Still, it's a nice checklist. I like it. I use it a lot. It's very much automated, which is also good. Before taxi checklist, air conditioning packs on, anti-ice probes. Where are the probes? Here are the probes. Turn them on. Then the anti-ice cowl. These are linked, these two buttons or switches. Anti-ice wing. Yeah. Anti-ice window. You have to use the right button. Thrust reversers. Arm. This is down here. Transponder. Standby. I didn't even know it was on. Hang on. It is in standby. Yeah. By the way, there's also a switch here, all right? So, flaps, 20 degrees, that's 2 notches. Then you can check your ICAS and so on. I don't do that now. Status ICAS, trim stabilizer set. Actually, when we go here to this page, there you have also the trim, the stabilizer, aileron and rudder trim settings, oxygen 1500, temperature 22 degrees inside, cabin altitude 475, landing elevation 1480, and here you have to make sure that you are in the green band. Okay, I put it towards the upper end of the band. There is some documentation, I think, with this aircraft, so yeah, I fly experience values now since I've used it so much. So let's turn that off. Something that's actually missing still are the V-speeds. Now, the Aerosoft comes with automatic V-speed calculation. You can even send it from your FMC or from your they have a kind of an EFB style thing on the prepared Aerosoft version of the CRJ, and that would automatically calculate. Now, the ones that I have I found that work quite well is the following. First of all, you need to bring this over to V speeds here. Let's go a bit closer. And then we are on V1. You can see this here on the red one. It says V190. I bring this to 105. Then you have to click select. Comes rotation. I rotate at 110. I go to V2 and I do 115. Yeah, they seem to work nice. Yeah, and the VT, well, I kind of put it on 120. So I put about 5 knots in between. Oops, that was void 2. I need to select again. Oh no, hang on. VT isn't done here. That's if I use the TGT setting. Okay. Yeah, that's it. Rudder pedals, check. Yeah. So the weather radar, they wanted to turn on now. So let's go here. Weather radar is on. V1 with V2 VT. Left side panel set. We've done that. Then we turn on the taxi light, which is up here. The taxi max speed is 15 knots. My plane holding short runway. Yeah, okay. So let's go to the takeoff clearance. Park brake off. Did it go off? Couldn't hear anything. We'll know in a moment. Yeah, it's off. It needs a bit of a push at the beginning, so if you then bring back the power, you can see that it gets slower pretty quickly. So it's kind of dragging a bit on its heels. So yeah, you need to have power applied. Unfortunately, the external sounds are very, very loud. It is actually possible to change those. Here's the sound volumes of the new version of the external sound thing, Engine X. But then you get some strange noises from some clackety-clickety. See this? It sounds very odd when you do the external engines low. Okay, let's taxi. This is, by the way, this is the FMC readout, kind of the text course. Ground speed is 17, we're a little bit fast. In theory, we shouldn't exceed 15 knots on taxi. Outside temperature is 12 degrees. This also is an aircraft that you can't really leave alone when you're flying. It's quite important. You must stay alert at all times, especially when it comes to your speed. The speed can drop quite quickly. You can go into overspeed very quickly just by being kind of distracted by other things that this aircraft does. So you really have to be on your toes, yeah. So this is Adria coloring, by the way. Adria had CRJ-200s and 700s. Unfortunately, Adria... Oh no, hang on. Adria, is it? No, Adria I think is still in the game. Is it? Yeah. Yeah, I think it is still. There are so many airlines that are either shortly before bankruptcy or are fighting against bankruptcy. I guess in 2021, now in this new year, we will see some more airlines to falter and disappear. unfortunately. I've started a list of airlines that have already kicked the bucket, and some that where it looks kind of, yeah, not good. Some of them may be rescued, some of them may not, but I think we're going to see a lot of airlines that will not survive this year, because it doesn't look like the travel business will pick up quickly again. Not as long as we have this friggin' virus under control. So, yeah. Adria, by the way, is a Croatian airline. This is a freeware livery that I found on, I think it was the forum. Okay, so let's quickly go to the takeoff checklist. So we turn the strobe lights on. We turn the landing lights on, of which there are 3. We turn the taxi lights off. We turn the transponder on into mode Charlie. There's only these 2 positions. It's called R for whatever R means. Wheels up. That's in a takeoff, landing gear up, flaps up. Yeah, okay, that's not a kind of... Autopilot speed mode on, autopilot engage on. So what they're doing is, the guy who made the checklist suggests that we climb out with a speed mode as soon as we have reached V2 or above, and climb out initially with the speed mode. We need to then turn the, so let's turn on the flight director. We need to then turn on the autopilot. Don't turn on the autopilot before you're up in the air. And don't activate the nav mode before you're up in the air. And, quite important, because I just realized, you switch to FMS mode for the nav mode. You have to do this, and my experience is you should do this before you leave the ground. Because if you do that in the air, there's a certain sequence that sometimes works. Mostly there are other issues, but we shall see. I really want this aircraft to be used. You know, it's not that I want to slash it now or so. I would love it to work, but yeah, my experience wasn't that good, unfortunately. So let's see. Maybe it likes me today and wants to play ball. We'll see. I would love it to do so. I like this little airplane. I also like airplanes that are a bit more complicated to fly. You just need to be more at your game. You need to be concentrating much more. It's not easygoing fly with an aircraft like this. But who says that flying in the simulator should be easygoing all the time? Left. Okay, so. Alrighty, now I think we're fine. So what I do now is I quickly bring in the display. So I bring this N1 thing to about 90. I hold still on the brakes until the engines spool up. Try and not have the TGT in the red area. So we're about 90. There we go. Airspeed is alive. V1, rotate. I pull on the yoke quite a bit actually. I use the brakes to stop the wheels, and I bring in the gear. So, and then I engage the autopilot. I use the speed mode with the current speed. And I switch to nav, and yeah, shit. doesn't work. I was afraid of that. The problem is that the GPS, and that's why I try to bring up the GPS again. The GPS is in warlock mode. And unfortunately, I also don't have my Datareftool now, so that it doesn't interfere. So what I do now is I actually use the heading mode to steer the aircraft. And that is exactly the problem that people have. The FMS stays in this white area, it never engages, and therefore it does not follow your flight plan. The problem also is that even if it is in this side and the normal GPS has another flight plan in it, it flies somewhere completely somewhere different. Yeah, and what you can also see is that it will not detect that your autopilot is actually turned on, right? Although we have turned it on. So there is interference, I'm afraid. So I'm going to increase speed now to about 180. And I kind of follow now the needle. And actually have an idea now. Let's see if that works. So this is the GNS Nav1 CDI. Why don't I put my key there and give it a try? That doesn't work either. Yeah. So let's try that again. Nav? No. Heading mode. Flaps in. Yeah, I'm bringing the speed now to 250. And I'm bringing down the noises a bit. I think you heard enough of it, and you need to really kind of follow the needle here. So I'm always putting it a bit towards the line, okay, so that it will capture it eventually, because we are slightly off now. 10,000. Okay, landing lights are off, flight level 100, thrust limit pop up. Thrust limit release, or whatever that is, hold 290 knots until 0.7 Mach. We're going to stay on 250. Flight level 180, reset altimeter. In that case, we are on 1013 anyway, so you didn't need to do that. But if you need to do that, it's here. There's the button. which switches to 1013. Cabin differential pressure monitor and hold Mach 0.7 to cruise level. Yeah, we're staying below that. So cruise speed normally is Mach 0.75. The fasten seatbelts then go off. Oh, they were actually off. Now they're off. Now they're in automatic. Okay, so engine instruments, flight instruments checked. And next is the descent checklist. Oh, I need to watch out. I think we, yeah. And the thing now is it not always switches the legs. So that's the problem in this mode. Yeah, we need to turn to Akini. So I go on the direct page and I tell it to go to Akini, execute. And then I'm going to use the heading to intercept Akini. And well, what else can I do? Let's see what happens when I use the other one. Nope. There is also the OBS. Let's try the OBS setting. No, it doesn't work. Yeah, OBS, Copilot card, OBS HSI up, direct course, HSI select down 1, up 1, HSI shows GPS. Let's use this one. Nope. So we're approaching slowly but surely our flight level 200. So at the moment the speed mode takes care of the speed. But in a moment I need to be aware and reduce the power. So we switch again. Yeah, that's not really helpful if you have to do this. Okay, so we have to fly straight now anyway for some time. Ostis and Bamta are on along the same track. No, a little bit too far. That's the zoom. Let's correct this a bit. We're almost at 2000. The speed mode will now reduce the vertical rate in a moment. we have almost no wind, so I can follow the arrows without really compensating for the wind. So I'm going to put this now here, and you can see that we are getting faster because we are arriving at flight level 200. So I have to reduce the power now. Yeah, and I kind of checked the, you can see here, there's still a slight tendency to get faster, while this is still showing this little thing pointing upwards. Okay, looks like we have kind of a stable speed at the moment. Well, I'll just leave it there now. I could correct carefully. So what you can do is you can check 700 TGT. Seems to have a stable speed, so I reduce slightly to get down to 250. And when we are at 250, I go back to TGT 700. And hopefully that'll keep the speed relatively stable. Yeah, the speed mode kept our descent rate at 1500 FPM, so that sounds like a good way to do this. Yeah, I think we're pretty much quite okay. Just have to watch out now. Yeah, pity. And it apparently Philipp Münzel or whatever, he has a different name now, different second name. Philipp is not doing anything here anymore. And there was supposed to be a version 2 of this aircraft, but yeah, I don't know. What I heard or what I read is that because Philipp isn't available to do the FMC, we're not going to see probably version 2 as well, because if the FMC is like this, I don't want a more beautiful airplane doing the same stupid things. So I guess we're not going to see, probably we're not going to see a CRJ anytime soon. So, yeah. Aha, the Bamta corner. Let's see where it's bringing us. Yeah, so the TGT 700 at this altitude and with this wind seems to be a stable setting to keep the speed. It's slightly decreased, but very slowly. So we just need to watch this from time to time. And when I realize that we're getting a bit below, further below, then I can give it a wee boost. So now it wants us to go to Bingu. We're at Bamta. And oh yeah, we need to actually turn around completely because this is now behind us, and you can see that the arrow of the is now pointing downwards. I actually didn't see that initially. That means we need to correct quite a bit then for the drift we are getting here. Yeah, I can't tell you how it would normally do this, because today we are mastering the zoom is, yeah. We are mastering the Bamta corner manually with this aircraft. I wonder if you know what? This is getting my programmer's heart pumping here because I'm thinking of writing a Lua script. Because basically what I'm doing is I'm changing the heading to follow the CDI and the course. So maybe I can write something that checks the readout of those needles here and automatically change the heading to kind of intercept. Yeah, I think we need now to go pretty much a good bit further. That's interesting, yeah. That's a little challenge. If I succeed, then we can use this aircraft again. We just keep in heading mode and turn on that script, and hopefully, if I find out how to do that, I should follow the flight plan just by switching the headings. That's what I'm doing manually now. Very interesting. By the way, I have, as a developer type, I have the Datareftool running most of the time. I realize now that the Datareftool, which is a great debugging tool that I use a lot for scripting and things like that, it eats up to 10 FPS. Since X-Plane is giving you the FPS numbers, and by the way, if you're interested to see how much your plugins swallow, you just go here, you call up the plugin admin, and on the overview page, it shows you that ultraweather, for example, eats up 1 frame. That's quite moderate. It's quite okay. The CRJ eats up about 3.5 to 3.8, 4 sometimes. So. And the Datareftool, although I'm not using it, eats up to 10 frames. Wow! So I turn it off now. Either I take it out of the plugins, or when I have it in there, I actually go in here and turn it off, and then I gain actually up to 10 frames. Yeah, that was quite a surprise for me to see this. I think we need to correct again. Oh, and see what happened? I was talking to you, and I was distracted, and the speed was running away with us, because I had actually increased the power a little bit to counteract some speed losses, and then I wasn't at the game, and immediately we're on almost 280. So let's go back to 250. You need to watch. This is not an all-inclusive airplane doing everything for you like an Airbus. So I go back to about 700 again and see what happens. Actually, we should be at 1500. That's another thing that I... yeah, so let's go into speed mode. All right, so speed mode is set 249, and now I'm taking back the power. And we get into a 1500 FPM. So I take back the power until we settle at about 1500 feet per minute descent rate. Oh, and we need to correct our heading again. So normally if the FMS mode would work, I don't need to do that. So this is now double as complicated with this aircraft. So 1.4, that is good. Let's leave it at that. And I guess we also need to continue then climbing to 5,000 feet. We should have been at 1500 at bingo already, but I got a bit distracted, yeah. We're sending a bit slow, so I take back the power again. Now, I'm not sure if it would work better without Vulkan, but I think Vulkan has nothing to do with the navigation. Vulkan is the graphic engine, and I guess it's just that 1150 has seen so many changes compared to 1120 or so, when this was, I think, made X-Plane 11 compatible. Yeah, it's and the plugins and all that. It's probably a small thing, but if you don't have a developer that takes care of it, well then, tough luck. Yeah, I'm going to continue now to 5,000 and kind of controlling the descent rate. Yeah, I guess we can descend a little bit less drastically, but we definitely need to catch up on our track again. If you need to change the range, there's a little button here, and what we can see is that the descent indicator is somewhere here. So at the moment it looks like we are quite okay. Yeah, so here's the banana. Okay, and if I extrapolate this, I think if we stay at the current descent rate, we'll be okay for Magat being at 5,000. And then the ILS capture can take over the approach mode. By the way, it doesn't matter if I turn off any of these plugins now. Yeah, it doesn't make a difference. It will not suddenly work because I turn these off here. Actually, if you turn on or off plugins, as some people have suggested and tried, chances are that you will crash the desktop. It happened to me at least in 3 flights where I was playing around here and turned things on or off, and then suddenly, poof, I was gone. So, yeah. Think we need to, let me see this. I leave. Let's leave it. Oh yeah, let's go a little bit more. Let's try and stay with about 1500 FPM on the descent. And I think we are ready again. So let's turn a bit towards here. We're veering off again. I mean, if you look at this, this was one of the first aircraft that had a decent navigation display. I mean, it was payware at the time, but that was still the times when you had the microfiche writings on really awful, crappy navigation page and things like that. So It was quite good for its time, yeah. So we're almost at mic, and I think we may have to increase the descent a little bit more. So we're going to switch any moment. Check. So, fasten seatbelts. Let's turn them on again. Ah, yeah, they are on. Descent rate, yeah, hold, yeah, hold, yeah, artist, blah, blah, and so on. Approach checklist, blah, blah. Decision height, we have it already. Decision height, yes. Decision height we haven't got yet. It's here, decision height, and yeah, theoretically you can change it, but I thought that I had seen it before. Yeah, that's a bit confusing. Speed established, yeah, not yet. Flaps 20 degrees. So below 190 we go to flaps 20. Below 180 we go to flaps 30. When we're then on the glide slope, when we're below 170 we go flaps 45. Blinding lights on, the spoilers into the arm position. I think that's a switch. I think that's this one here. So put that into the arm position. Yeah, we need to get slower now. So I'm going to 220 and I'm taking down the power. And I'm switching now the source to nav1. We are on nav1 and the course to 080. And I'm arming the nav mode, which, who knows whether it will actually capture it. Okay, we're at almost 5,000. I'm going 190. So it has captured VOR1, at least that has worked. We need to now get down. Definitely need to get down further. So let's do this. We are too high. I need to help it now. That did not work very well. Because we are too high for the localizer, so we need to help it to intercept. So 190, flaps 20. And we're still far too high. I need to pressure it down now. Somehow the, oops. Okay, the glide slope is coming in. That's not a very nice approach. I think we are too far to the left. This is now the NAV here, so we are actually a bit towards the left. We need to correct for that. And we need to get slower. Flaps 45. Gear down. Okay. Now we've dropped a little bit under the glide slope. Actually takes some time to get it climb out again. So now we're a bit too fast. I need to reduce the speed further. I would say I will approach with about 120 or so. That sounds like a good one. Too low again. Shouldn't go below 120, I think. Otherwise, we're going to be in trouble. So, yeah, it's ballooning. It's ballooning. Come on. I haven't been flying with this thing for ages. Long landing, yeah, I know. Okay, let's go down. Let's, come on. Bring it down. So. By the way, there's no auto brake. $80 knots. Okay, we're down. That wasn't very nice. I forgot the landing lights because of the mess we had at the end. Yeah, that's the problem. So if you don't have a working FMS and you have to kind of try and make it all yourself, yeah, that's what comes out of it with one pilot in the cockpit. We just about made it. The trim, I actually had difficulties also with the trim. Let's see. It's not moving very fast, yeah. So I had to actually give it quite long. I had to stay on the trim button here for quite some time to get it trimmed, so that I actually feel a result of the trimming. And that's why we had this ballooning now, because I tried to kind of trim it out, but somehow it took too long. Yeah, and then the speed, when you're not used to it with the engines. Right, yeah. Let's bring in the flaps. Yeah, clear to land, taxi checklist. Actually, it would be good if this would be automatic, but so let's start the APU. Let's, these are off already. Let's turn on the taxi light. Let's turn off the strobes. And we also turn off the transponder. The APU is available. That's what this was. So flaps are up. The spoilers are retracted. Taxi landing lights, strobe lights off. We can disable the reverses and the spoilers. Now the checklist has gone again. Next, my plane at the gate. Okay, we're not there yet. By the way, you can see that the APU is on, because here's the intake. I think it's the intake for the APU, the air intake. That opens up. Yeah, sound-wise, it's quite a nice aircraft. It's a pity that it doesn't work with the with the flight plans, but yeah, it's going to be a challenge. I will try and see if I can tweak it into playing suit by messing around with some Lua scripting. See if I can make it work. Yeah, if not, then yeah, I don't really want to fly all the time by changing the heading. That's not really what I want to do. Not sure if there's something that would need to be changed in the aircraft definition. Yeah, it could be that there is something that would have to be turned on or off, maybe, in the aircraft config file. Who knows? I mean, I don't mind having to watch out for the speed, but at least for the flight plan, I would like it to just follow it, you know. That takes quite a bit of strain away from me if I don't have to continuously watch both. Because as you have seen, the speed you can get under control quite quickly. You find a good matching power setting, and then you kind of tweak it very finely in order to hold then your current speed. And on the descent and ascent, you can actually use the speed mode, which works also quite nicely. It's like the flight level change. And the Boeing, it would keep us a certain speed, the one that you have actually set in there, and it would pitch the aircraft to keep the speed accordingly. And you can control it with a thrust lever. So here's 581, and we're going to park at 581. Okay, park brake is on. And now, oh, hang on, stop. No, that's nonsense. That is nonsense. You need to bring that down into the, and then pull them. That's the way it works, yeah. So we put the APU generator into automatic. Forgot to do that. And okay, so we're back. Yeah, Try&Fly that unfortunately went the way that I feared it would. Pity. I kind of half hoped that it would work out this time, but yeah, why should it? So let's go to the AC button, can turn that one off. Then we need to turn off the weather radar, the yaw dampers, and the gravity flow is off. Fasten seat belts, main door. Oh yeah, there's a way to open the door. There probably is a slider or something that you can define, but if you want to open the door, what you need to do is you need to go to the door or find the slider kind of key, but yeah, you kind of find this red thing there and then you press it down and then your door is open. So the air conditioning packs we turn off, anti-ice probes we turn them all off. Anti-ice wing off, hydraulic pumps, nav lights off, beacon off. Oh, strobe was off. Did I turn it on again? Battery master off. And we still have power because we still have a ground power selected. Strange how the displays look now. Black sort of. Let's take that one away and then we are really cold and dark. Right, so that was the Try&Fly with the yeah with the CRJ from Jrollon. Pity. I really want to use this aircraft, but not like this. Now let's see. I mess around with it and see if I can make it work somehow, or find out what combination of plugins actually will work or not. If I do, and if I find a way of making this work, then I'll let you know. Otherwise, I'm afraid this this aircraft will be put in the hangars in the museum, in my X-Plane museum. Thanks very much for watching. I hope it wasn't too boring. Until next time. So, welcome. Another little addendum here to my Try&Fly. I might have figured out a way how to get this working. I realized that there are several variants of this problem. Variant number one is when I start from cold and dark, like I did now. The FMS mode doesn't seem to engage at all. But even if I managed to get it engaged, then it couldn't follow the flight plan. So we seem to have two phenomena here. One is the FMS mode engagement, and the other is which flight plan is it actually following. And it seems to follow the internal GPS from X-Plane flight plan where there is none. So there is a constant switching between the internal and the external GPS or the FMC here, and that obviously doesn't work very well, as we only know too well. Okay, so I'm climbing up. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to activate flight director, speed mode, nav mode, and here is the problem. The autopilot will not engage. All right, I had this before. You get that when you start. What I can do now is I can press the Z key, which is basically the turn the standard autopilot of X-Plane on, but then it switches, and now we are in FMS. And what can we see? Yeah, we are in roll and climb mode, but will not engage the FMS mode, and that means I need to go and use heading mode, as we have seen before. Now that's the issue. So I found this little dataref. It's called Sim Operation Override GPS. At times there is a 0 in there or a 1. What I realized is if I put this quickly to 0, see what happens? When I make a change in this override GPS, suddenly the autopilot mode seems to switch, and yeah, and then it just follows. It just follows the flight plan, just like that. We'll see that in a moment. Zack, and the airplane follows and tries to catch the track from DM077 to DM079. So it's this little dataref, as it's called, override _ GPS. I'm probably going to create myself a little Lua script and a macro, as it's called, something that I can call up from the FlyWithLua menu, and I'll see if I can enforce this manually. Yeah. So good to know. For me, it's actually easy because I usually have Datareftool activated, although it takes a lot of F frames, and I will probably turn it off then afterwards. But that's good to know, and I'll see if I can put this into a script, which probably makes it a bit easier. Yeah, just to tell you that I found a solution for that problem, which now makes this aircraft usable again, and I'm actually quite happy about that. Okay. Thanks for watching. Until next time.